Chapter 15. I mooch around the house the rest of the day, thinking about Abby and Serena. My head is whirling with this new and scary world that I am learning more and more about. I think nobody has noticed my mood, but Dad must have seen that I'm quiet and withdrawn. At about 8:30, he asked Mum to take Sophia to bed. "It's not fair," she complains as usual. "Why can't I stay up?" "Remember, you have separate bedtimes now, darling. You still need an early bedtime," Mum explains, patiently as they head to the bedroom. "So, what is it that's troubling you now, my little angel?" Dad asks, patting the sofa space next to him. "You've had a rumpled frown on your face all day." He strokes my hair, but rather than soothing me, his gentle affection irritates me and sets me off on a rant. Why should any parent feel they have the right to decide whether or not their kids get married? Never mind deciding who they can marry. What gives them the right? Why can't girls just marry because they fall in love? Why should anyone have the right to force them? I'm so furious, but I can feel tears surging in my eyes. I'm desperate for Dad to make it all better, to give me all the answers, and make the world all right again, as he always could when I was a little girl. He wraps his arms around me, but it isn't enough. I push away. "Serena is getting married, even though she doesn't want to," I say, calmer now. "And when Abby's dad decides the time is right, she'll also be forced to marry whoever he wants her to." When Dad finally speaks, it's with great empathy and softness. "I understand your anger. I have seen this sort of thing many times in my life, and each time I feel the same way. Some parents get all tied up in tradition and wanted to hold onto the values they grew up with, to raise their child the same way they were raised. But the world doesn't stand still. Their values don't necessarily work in this newer world, and not everyone can deal with how our world has changed. What they also don't realise is that even back home, a lot of people have moved on. Their values have adapted. Your cousins in India are now allowed to date and choose who they marry. But why can't Abby's parents see what they're doing isn't right?" I interrupt. Nearly all parents want what's best for their children, even if sometimes they're wrong. Even your mum and I don't get everything right, though I hope you know we never force you into anything that you don't want to do. Abby also told me that her big sister Anna was tricked into getting married, I confide. "What do you mean?" Dad asks, his eyebrows raised. He glances at Mum, and he comes back into the room and sits opposite him. "I was talking to Abby and she told me that their parents lied to Anna. They told her she was going back home for a holiday, and then they made her get married, and Abby hasn't seen or spoken to her since. Abby doesn't even know exactly where Anna is. And then last week, Abby told me that she heard her dad shouting at her mother that she has to make Abby work harder in order to teach her how to cook and clean so that she doesn't bring shame on them, or else Abby will be beaten like her sister was. What's worse is that Serena must know all this. She knows what to expect, and yet she's still going through out there to get married. Poor Serena, and Abby too. This is horrible. We hear about these things, but to have it going on with people you really know is, well, shocking," Mum says, her voice gravely with concern. Dad shakes his head. "There's little anyone can do if Serena is prepared to go ahead with this. If she were being forced, it would be a different matter, but she's 16 and going there knowingly. No one can interfere to help," Dad says flatly. "Maybe the poor girl doesn't really understand what she is letting herself in for," Mum adds. "But Abby does, Mum, and she'll need our help. There's no way she would agree to any kind of marriage yet. If Abby finds herself in this situation, we need to step in and help," Dad says really reassuringly. "What will you do, Dad?" "Hopefully it won't come to that," Mum says. I can sense that she's trying to convince herself as much as she is me. "Maybe things will seem clearer in the morning," Dad suggests, giving me a hug goodnight. As I head to the door, I pause and turn back. "I love you, Mum. I love you, Dad," I say, with more meaning than I ever felt before. "Love you too, Angel. they say in perfect unison.